Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Life Conversations with a Twist. I'm so excited to have Hannah on today. Hannah and I, this is our first time meeting in person, but we've had a beautiful conversation, and I know your mom very well. And I'm just really excited to have this conversation with you. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So I'll tell our listeners a little bit how we got connected. So I've been in the events industry forever, to over 25 years. And just recently I've been connected to Larkin, who is the owner and founder of Common Ground Society, which is a nonprofit. You probably can speak to it better than I can, but it's a nonprofit that helps children with disabilities and their families. And she's doing beautiful work, and I love her so much. And I am like her biggest fan and can see so much happening. And last year, I got the privilege to help her with her gala, and your mom is obviously part of the planning because she has a child with a disability, and so we've known each other through the industry. But that was a really great way to get to know each other, and then she connected us together because you want to start a podcast.
Yeah, I was so excited when I found out about you and your podcast and everything you're doing because I just think this is such a cool platform to be able to share your individual stories. And as the sibling of a person with disabilities, I feel like I'm always wanting to talk to people and always wanting to express my story and my experiences. So I'm just really excited to be able to dive in and learn about all these people who also have totally different experiences than I do, but a lot of things that probably we could relate to. So I think it'll be really cool.
Yeah, awesome. So tell our listeners a little bit about like who you are and a little bit about your sister, your mom, kind of like how why this even conversation's even happening.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Santa Rosa, where you live, and my youngest sister has an intellectual disability. So what it literally is hypomyelination of the corpus callosum. So it's a cognitive processing disorder.
I'm
um,
so like every time anybody says a disability, I'm like,
I
what?
know. Yeah, because
Yeah.
hers isn't one that has an overarching name for it. It's just this is what's happening. So that's usually the quickest way to explain it. The layer of myelin around the core of her brain isn't fully developed. So it just makes cognitive processing and motor skills a lot more challenging for her. And so growing up with her, I've just gotten such a unique perspective on family dynamics and the community of people with disabilities. So it's been really interesting to kind of have that insight. I'm a big storyteller. I love being creative. I also am an actor and I love painting and all of that. So I've always been really passionate about finding a way to connect with this community and speak up for them. And I was always kind of looking for my niche and wondering, like, well, how can I make a difference? I don't really see myself teaching in special ed, but I want to do something to help. And so the podcast idea came to me and it just felt so personal because this is what I love to do. I love to talk to people, to ask questions, ask the real questions that maybe some people are afraid to ask.
Mhm.
And I think that's where a lot of I'm just a sibling of a person with disabilities. I can't speak for those people, but from my experiences, even just for my own experience, I'm always wanting people to ask me questions. And I think a lot of the time people are really scared to. So I'm just really excited to set something up where we can do that openly and honestly and get to learn about each other.
I think that's the one thing that I loved when you told me about your concept is like being able to have honest conversations. And again, the a lot of these children can't advocate for themselves. Some of them, can't speak or whatnot. And so I think it's great that the siblings get to step up and support and to advocate. Obviously, parents do the same thing, but to be a sibling to walk through life with a sibling with disability and the things that you see, like I think those are the real conversations, right? And like, how do you educate and inspire us to like learn how we integrate them in our lives?
Totally. Yeah. I think that so often, like you said, you hear the parents speaking up
Mhm.
and the obviously the parents have such a good insight too. I do think that it could be really special to have this opportunity for the siblings to speak up because they are going to see their siblings on another dynamic and kind of in a different zone than the parents do. Like sometimes the siblings see that, sometimes I see that my sister is overwhelmed with things that like maybe my mom doesn't catch on to, and my mom catches on to things that I don't. And having grown up with my sister, like we shared a childhood together, we're more of a peer relationship. So I think it's really special for the peers of these people to be the ones doing the speaking, versus the parents, which is also a really special and important thing. But it's just kind of pivoting a little bit so that you can get this whole other perspective.
I have all kinds of questions that came up. Everything you say, I'm like, oh my God, I want to ask her about this. Okay, so just for clarity for everybody who's listening. So you are the oldest. How many siblings are there total?
There's three of us. So
There's
I'm the oldest. My sister Summer, so I'm 28. My sister Summer is 26. And then Ella turns 21 tomorrow. Or
Oh,
actually, not tomorrow, on the 30th, but we celebrate tomorrow.
oh my gosh. And she's still living at home with mom.
Yeah, so Ella lives at home with mom in Santa Rosa. I actually live in Santa Barbara, and then my other sister Summer lives in San Diego.
Ugh.
So we're all a little spread out.
Okay, I wanted everyone to know like your age dynamics as we have this conversation. Um I think one of the things that I've always loved about Larkin and what she is all about, and I've been super honest with her when she's been on my podcast about this, is that a lot of us who are not around people with disabilities, like we don't know how to act. We don't know how to interact. Do we say hi? Do we make eye contact? Like it's always this like weird thing. And then as a mom and as a parent, we're trying to teach our children like to be welcoming and to say hi and to not judge. Um, how do you feel about that? And what advice do you have for us who are interacting with people with disabilities
Yeah.
just in the community?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think it is such a common thing and it's something everyone can relate to. Like, I've grown up around so many people with disabilities and I have a sister with disability, but I still catch myself thinking the same way. Like, I want to be open and inviting to everyone, but I'll still catch myself of, oh, like what if I say the wrong thing to this person? Or what if I use like the wrong terminology that's a little out of date to their parents? Like I'm always thinking these things too. So it's been interesting for me to reflect on that and be like, wow, if I'm the sister of a person with disabilities, like other people must feel even more kind of nervous about that. And so I think that it's so important for us all to just try, just put yourself out there, just interact with these people, even if you're not sure exactly how. And also, again, this is coming from the perspective of someone without disabilities, but I've just seen in moments where my sister, she would be in a group of a bunch of girls her age and they they hadn't met her before and they're a little standoffish and they probably aren't thinking like, oh, I don't want to talk to this person. They're probably thinking, I don't know how.
Mhm.
And I've seen my sister wish that these people would just be a little more open and inviting. So I just think it's so important for us all to just start somewhere. And even I think like asking questions and, if you don't understand what someone say, like, oh, can you repeat that? Like, I didn't quite hear you clearly. Um, so yeah, I just think that that is kind of one of the big barriers in our community is just this hesitation of messing up. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think that by just putting ourselves out there a little more and just learning about each other a little more, we can fill that gap quite a bit.
Hmm. Well, and Larkin's thing is like be the one to say hi or be the one to, interact with them or open a door for them or interact with them. So I just love that message and thank you for that because I think you're right. It is. It's like we don't want to mess up. We don't want to say the wrong thing. It is an awkward situation because you don't know like does this person are they able to talk or can they even hear me? Can they even see me? And so sometimes it's just like just try, right? And see what happens.
Totally. And
Yeah.
I always try to go with the mindset of assuming that they can understand me and hear me because there are a lot of people with disabilities that do pick up on things that you wouldn't realize they do. Like they do hear you, they do understand you, they are processing what's happening, but they can't express it. And that, it's such a range from so many different types of people, but I do like to approach a person as assuming that they can understand what I'm saying and that they do fully pick up on the whole situation because I just think that's a better place to start and you just create more opportunity that way than, oh no, I don't think that person knows what, is understanding what's happening here. Um, So I just think that approaching it with that mindset can go a long way.
Your sister's disability, what is her like? Is she able to communicate? Is she able, like, what would be her disability, basically?
Yeah, so she can fully communicate. She's super social, super outgoing. She's literally the funniest person I've ever met. um, so for her, it's cognitive processing. So it's like when it comes to physical actions, motor skills are really challenging for her, like tying her shoes, anything, fine motor skills like that. And then for processing, she can fully have an open conversation, and she knows exactly what's happening in the room. I think sometimes when new people meet her, like eventually with speaking to her, they'll realize, like, oh, like, she's really witty, and she's picking up on every little thing. Especially I think it's interesting because she does have such a big sense of humor, and that's been such a big place of expression for her, I think, because she'll say these things that are like, she just comes in so quick, and I'm like, how did you think of that? Like, and for anyone, I'm like, how does anybody think of that?
She should do improv.
She would do great at improv. Yeah, she's so funny. But yeah, so learning how to read and do math and things like that have always been a big challenge. And the math skills quite aren't there. Reading, she's come so far. But it's interesting because so many things that we thought she wouldn't be able to do, or that we were told she wouldn't be able to do, just with time and effort. Thankfully, she's been able to just accomplish a lot that we didn't really know how it would go at first. But my parents have just been so great with doing all these types of speech therapy, physical therapy, and just really working with her. And she's always surprising us with new skills. So it's really cool to watch.
When was she born? Like, at what point in her life did you know that she had this disability? Like, is it something like she was born, or as she was developing is when you
Right.
guys realized that?
So I was 7 when she was born, and there was, I think, a lot that I wasn't fully understanding, but my parents did know pretty early on that she had a disability. I know it was still when she was a baby, and I don't remember exactly how old she was, but I think I could be wrong. I think there were just certain movements and things that were usually that weren't happening,
Mm.
something like that, that was kind of a sign. But the first moment that I remember really getting an idea of just how our experiences were going to be a little different was I was a kid and I was at church, and there was this little girl who was probably like 2, and she was just running around the church, and I was chasing her around. And I was talking to my mom after, and I was like, oh, that was so much fun. I can't wait till Ella's that age. And my mom's like, I know, it is so fun. Just so you know, when Ella's that age, she probably won't be doing that quite yet. It's going to take her a little more time. And that was the first time I remember it clicking, like, okay, certain things are going to take more time, or they're just going to happen a bit differently than the standard. So that was an interesting, like, core memory.
Well, if you looked back, like, what was your experience growing up with your sister? And did you have any incidents where people made you feel uncomfortable or made you question like what was happening? I mean, I'm just curious on like what your thoughts were as growing up with her.
Yeah, yeah. My parents did such a good job of making me and I can't speak for my sister, but making me feel really included. And I didn't really have the experience growing up where I was like, oh, all the attention's going to my sister. And I know that's not the case for all siblings who have a sibling with disabilities. So I'm really grateful for that. Um, but, I definitely did experience things growing up where I was like, okay, like, something about my home life is different, because going to restaurants sometimes, like, if she was flustered or whatever, she'd make really loud noises, and we'd have to kind of
Hmm.
think about how to adjust for that. But I think one of the things that stood out to me the most was how new people would react when I said I had a sibling with disabilities.
Hmm.
Um, like, there's been people who have said, like, oh, well, they're just so, that's so wholesome. And I know that they're just the happiest people ever. And then there would be people who were like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's so, hard. And it's just interesting because it's like, you know, there are so many people with disabilities who are like great, generally happy people, maybe, but they also have really hard days, just like anyone. Like, I don't think having a disability makes you a more quote wholesome person or a happier person. You're still a person and you have good days and bad days. And also on the other end, it's like there are things about it that are really hard, but I don't think it's like this giant weight in my life. It's something different in my life and it's like a different perspective. But I do think that it's just kind of shaped my perspective on like friendships and inclusion. And inclusion's always been really important to me. And when growing up in school, if there was someone in class that just didn't get along with the peers as well, or, was just kind of an outcast, I always really felt for that person and always wanted to make them feel included. And I still very strongly feel that way. And it didn't really click with me until I grew up that that's a big part of where that comes from.
I was totally thinking that siblings who are have a sibling with a disability, like how much you move through life just being acceptive of everybody, whether they look different, whether they, move different, whether they talk different, like you just have a different perspective on it. And I think we all can learn from that, right? Because I think we need more of that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's also interesting because I think that her having a disability was just such a normal part of my life that for a long time growing up, I didn't think about it a lot. And then I did see a shift when she went from elementary school to middle school.
Mm.
Because in elementary school, she was in a Common Core classroom with a full-time aide. And she,
I was gonna ask like what her education looked like.
yeah, yeah. So in elementary school, she was there kindergarten through sixth grade. And so these kids started out with her for the most part. A lot of them knew her for several years because they were in school with her the whole time. And so they started from being really young kids and getting to know her then, and then growing into a sixth grader. And they'd just been exposed this whole time. And it was more of, oh, yeah, this is Ella. She has a disability. She's also part of our class and she does things with us and hangs out with us at recess. And then her aide would, do whatever things she couldn't keep up with in class, her aide would help her with and just accommodate. Then she went to middle school, and in middle school, it was just a different system. So instead of being in a Common Core classroom the whole time, she was in a separate classroom for kids with disabilities. And, every person's different, every kid's needs is different. So maybe there are certain kids who that's a better fit for, and that's totally fine. For Ella specifically, it wasn't because she needed to be interacting with everybody. She wasn't getting the same level of attention that she was in the Common Core classroom because it was just kind of more of a mindset. It was more of a daycare kind of setup, honestly. Like before in elementary school, she would do the science projects, the English projects as far as she could, and then she would pivot from there. With this, she was completely removed from all of that. So, I remember my mom asked if they could work on her math skills because we hadn't really gotten there at all yet. And they were like, oh, yeah, don't worry, she's going to use the microwave. And my mom's like, use the microwave? Like, she makes me scrambled eggs every morning. What are you talking about? Like, I want you to teach her actual math skills. And so it was just kind of a very one size fits all like
Mhm.
setup. And that's just not how it works with people with disabilities. There's such a range of needs and, accommodations that need to be placed. So also what I was getting to is versus elementary school and middle school, she had way more isolation from her peers than in elementary school. Because in middle school, it was kind of more the setup of, oh, these kids are over here doing their own thing. Versus elementary school, it was, oh, we're all doing this together. So I think that was the biggest, probably like time that hit the heaviest for me because I was seeing her actively be excluded by her peers, which I hadn't really seen before. And that just kind of made me realize like, I really want to look out for her and make sure that she just always has her people and her friends around her. And I just really want to be able to show people that, inclusion is so important on whatever level you can do it. Like,
Mhm.
even if it's just asking them to sit with you at lunch for one day, like, we just need to start somewhere.
Friends, I have such an exciting product that I need to share with you. Are you someone who hates washing their face at night? Yep, that's me. For years, I never wanted to wash my face. And finally, I found a product that actually gets me excited to wash my face every night, and that is Clear Stem. I have tried so many products over the years to find the one that I truly love, the one that makes my skin glow, the one that makes me feel good when I wash it, and the one that gets me excited to want to wash my face. I discovered Clear Stem through another podcaster, and I was like, I got to give this a try. I instantly became obsessed. Some of my favorite products are the hydrating cleanser, which I use every night. It smells delicious. It makes my skin feel so great. Once a week, I use their Vita Scrub, which is an exfoliating cleanser, and that just has these little micro beads in it that just make your face feel so beautiful. I can just feel them get into my pores and really give my face this huge glow. And then one of my other favorite products is the Hydra Berry mask. And once you wash your face, you put a layer of this on your skin and you go to sleep and you wake up and your face feels like butter. I get so many compliments on my skin now. I don't get a lot of breakouts anymore. My face feels nice and hydrated and bright, and it's all because of the Clear Stem product. What I love about them is that their products are all clean. They're good for your skin, they're good for your body, and they have so many different product lines based on the type of skin you have. So go down in the show notes, click on the link. I'm giving 15% off to anybody who uses my code, and I promise you, once you try this, you are going to be obsessed just as much I am. So again, go down to the show notes, click on the link, receive 15% off, and give Clear Stem a try. I promise you will not regret it. Education is a whole beast of a conversation, but you see as a mom, you're in all these Facebook groups and you see parents being like, why are these kids with disabilities in our kids' classrooms? They're taking away the teacher's attention or things like that. But look at what you just said and how beautiful that was of her being able to be around everybody, normalized a child with disabilities and let her fit in and let her be included. And then you rip that away and you put them in these groups together. That is not helping our society and our community to be okay and acceptive of it.
Right, totally. Like, if you treat it like it's this, you know, basically, if you remove anyone from any exposure, then no one's going to learn. So, like, these kids in middle school, probably a lot of them didn't have kids with disabilities in their classes. So, to them, it's this kind of daunting thing, back to what we were saying about, well, I don't know how to approach them, so I'm not going to. I think that's like where a lot of that starts out. Versus in elementary school, there's these kids that were exposed to that right from the beginning. So, it's not this weird thing to them. There's not the same barrier to them. Like, so many of those kids, still went to high school with Ella and stuff, and like they're friends and they talk all the time and stuff. So I just think that exposure is so important.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what advice do you have for somebody who's listening that is a sibling of disability? What's something that you've learned over the years that you wish somebody told you back when you were little and being around your sister?
I think it's really important to remember that we do have really different experiences and
Mm-hmm.
that it's okay to acknowledge that. I think that for a long time, I felt this pressure to feel like, oh, it's totally fine. Like, it's not hard, because I just felt guilty feeling that way. But there is a whole nother level of responsibility to being the sibling of a person with disabilities. And that responsibility for a lot of people goes throughout your whole life. And so I think that is a really impactful thing to consider. And I've been trying to give myself more grace to be like, it's okay that it's hard sometimes. Like, I live in Santa Barbara. I am always struggling with this balance of I want to pursue my dreams and live where I want to live, but I also want to be there for my sister and still be, her biggest advocate. So it's like finding that grace. And I think like there's going to be times when maybe you have to do your thing and then times when you have to show up for your sibling. And I think both of those are okay. Um, and it's just important to allow yourself to remember that.
Oh, you're gonna do so much good advocacy work. I can already feel it. Like just the way you talk and the way your perspective on it is like amazing. I have a question for you now. I feel like I can ask this because you are older and you've been around your mom. Something as a mom that I feel for other moms who might have a child with disability is like sometimes we as mom, like myself, take things for granted, right? Like our kids being a brat or they're fighting or they're not listening or they're doing these things. And then I think about moms who are, having to raise children with disabilities. And again, it's all spectrums, right? Some are easier than others, some require more care. Um, and like, what advice do you have for a mom who is sitting in that space right now of raising a child with disability who might feel depleted, unhappy, not doing anything for themselves? I mean, because you've now seen and lived with your mom.
Yeah,
Have you learned anything through that? And what advice do you have around that?
yeah, totally. I mean, first off, my mom is just incredible. I mean, she is such an inspiration to me just with her persistence. Like the level of advocacy she's had to do for my sister just to get her the basic needs that she requires in school is crazy. Like these are not, the general system is not set up for inclusion. And so these moms really have to do the gritty work to make it happen. And I think similar to what I was saying for siblings, I think the same way for parents, like just give yourself some grace. Like you do, have to make time for yourself. And also this is coming from someone who's not a mom, so I don't want I
But
don't want
you've been around your mom who's seen it, right? Yeah.
my mom just puts 100%, 110% into everything she does for my sister. And I'm just always like wanting to make sure like you're okay too. Like you need a break, like it's okay to take a second, like do something you want to do, if you can take a trip or something like I think that that's so important because you do have to be able to have time for yourself to show up for the people you love also and to give them your most. And I'm just so grateful for all the work that my mom does, and I want to make sure that she gets to enjoy her time too.
The other thing too, and again, I'm not in this world, but something that's always helped me just in whatever I'm going through is like there's so many support groups. I mean, you think of Common Ground Society and all the groups and programs that they put together is that there are people who are going through the same thing and like leaning on them and like finding your people who you can be like, hey, I'm having a rough day. Like, let's go
Yeah,
for a walk. Or I'm having issues with the school. Like, what have you done? Or what advice do you have? And so I want anyone listening to know that there's so many groups and support groups and advocacy groups that are like doing the work to like get involved and be a part of that.
totally. Yeah, my mom has gotten Ella involved in so many different extracurriculars that are for kids with disabilities over the years. And in doing that, she's built such a strong network of moms. And then in being part of Common Ground Society too. And I think that's been really essential because if you feel isolated in your experience, I think that just makes it hit so much harder. So being able to talk with these parents who've gone through something similar and are going through something similar, they'll have coffee and they'll talk about whatever happened this week, whatever meltdown they dealt with, whatever school thing that's happening that's crazy. And I've just seen how big that's been. And also for me and my other sister too, I think it's been so cool to meet other families going through this. And that's part of what inspired me to do this podcast is I want to create that network in siblings too. I think you see it more with parents. You don't see it with siblings a lot. So I've seen what my mom's built and I want to be able to build that for myself and my other sisters also.
I love that. I was going to ask you about the podcast. Is it up? Have you done anything? Where are you at? Tell people about it.
Yeah, so it's going to be launching October 20th. Yep, I'm so excited. It's going to be so much fun. I have my first episode all ready to go and I'm lining up interviews and all of that. So you can find it on Instagram. It's Our Kind of Normal Podcast. And then the episodes will for now be on Buzzsprout. So it's ourkindofnormalpodcast.com. So stay
Awesome. I'm
tuned.
so proud for you. And when people reach out to me and ask me about podcasts, I'm like, yes, I could like sit there and charge and do the things, but I'm like, no, I want to like help because I remember sitting in a same space of like, you want to do the work, you want to inspire people, you have no idea where to start or how to do it. And so that's why I'm like, yes, 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 I want to be your biggest cheerleader. And I think it's going to be such a great platform. You're going to do such amazing work and it's going to be,
Thank you so much. And I'm so grateful to you too for just all of your support and advice and everything. You're so awesome. And it's so cool to see what you're doing and what you've built out of this.
thank you. It's about to get bigger. I like promised myself that, and that's what I'm working on. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? I know we like talked a lot about a lot of different things, but is there anything that maybe you've learned over the years that you want to leave with, or something that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
I think just really emphasizing the point that I was making earlier of try to get involved in your communities and see how you can include more people with disabilities, also people without. I think that being part of something is just such an essential human need. And when you feel excluded, it's such a barrier in your life. So I think just put yourself out there, ask people questions that you don't know, talk to the strangers, on the bus or whatever. And just don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Don't be too afraid to say the wrong thing. Be more focused on asking the right questions.
So good, Hannah. Like so inspiring in so many levels. I think we all need more people like you in our lives and in our community because I'm like, if I say hi to I'm like walking and nobody even says hi anymore. I'm just like, can we just be nice again? What happened to us being kind?
I know. I totally agree.
But thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to see like your podcast take off and you doing all the good work. So thank you again for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.